In this video, we're going to look at the SafetyPro Label Designer software. That's the labeling software that comes with the SafetyPro printer. This is a training video where we'll cover all the basic features of the software. We'll also touch on some of the advanced features. For more information on those advanced features, you'll be able to watch our other videos. Let's go ahead and load the software up and start taking a look. First thing we're going to look at is the interface. You'll notice a lot of these icons are disabled. They'll be enabled once you create a new label. The few that are enabled are open and new, as well as the settings and the touch mode, tablet mode. So let's look at let's start a new label so we can unlock all these icons first of all. When you start a new label, you want to select your printer, then you're going to choose the material type that you have loaded, and you're going to choose a label size. I'm going to go ahead and make a 4x6 in landscape. If you want to do a custom size that's not shown in the drop-down, all you need to do is click Customize, and you can type in whatever values you want. Let's go ahead and create that 4x6. First thing you're going to notice is that we've unlocked all these. You're also going to notice these two kind of appear with the grid and snap to grid. But let's go ahead and look at our settings before we jump into all that. Settings are very simple in the software. You have the icon size for your two modes. The two modes would be for using on a normal computer, which is normal mode. That's where, you know, a screen, keyboard, and mouse. Touch mode or tablet mode is what would be used on a touch screen. So if you're using a Ranger type system, for example. I like the medium size icons, which is what you're seeing here for normal mode, and the big icons for the touch mode. Let me show you the small icons so you can see what they look like. They're a little bit more compact than I like, but some people like those up and out of the way. Let me go ahead and change that back. You've also got settings here for your exported images. If you create a label and you want to save it as a JPEG, that would be your exported image, and settings for autosave. And let me just show you this icon at the top right that looks like a finger touching the screen. That's the touch mode or the tablet mode. Several things change when you use that. If I have a blank label, the only thing that you're going to notice changing is that your icon size has changed. You can see how those would be much easier to touch on a touch screen than the smaller ones. We'll get back to that in just a few minutes when we're looking at some of these other items. Also for the interface, you have these different toolbars, which in the View menu under Toolbars, you can enable or disable the different toolbars. You can also, during your workflow, you can drag and move these things around. They can be docked to the top, to the left, to the bottom, or the right. Whatever you need to do during your workflow to make it go smoothly. Now let's look at these tools. These are all up in the Insert menu. The first two are actually just selection tools, so how your mouse cursor is going to work. We'll look at those in a minute. Most of the time you'll use this first one. The rest of these are for actually inserting. The first four are shapes, the next two are for text boxes, the next four are for barcodes, and then the last one is for images, which includes headers and the pre-installed image library that comes with the software. We're going to go ahead and insert some of these. We'll start by inserting the first four, which are shapes. You'll find that when to insert these, you click the icon up at the top, and then you click on your label where you want it inserted. After it's been inserted, you can click on it once to select it, and you'll see these green dots appearing around it. Those are called handles. They're useful for resizing. You can also click and drag to move your objects around. You can also size your objects manually. Let's say you wanted to have a square that was 2 inches by 2 inches. The Item Properties box on the right will populate whenever you select an item. I've just changed the size manually to 2 by 2. You can change the position manually as well if you wanted it to be placed in an exact location on your label. There's also a whole bunch of other options in here. Transform will rotate the object. You can type it in, or you can use these up-down arrows. I'm going to go ahead and return that to 0. Shear will deform the object horizontally or vertically. Very useful for creating different types of shapes. You can also change your outline color and type. You got solid, dotted, dashed, and you can make your lines thicker on these objects if you'd like. Change the end cap style, and you can also make it rounded. So several different options. These options will change slightly depending on the object. A straight line is going to have different properties than a box, but a lot of them will be the same properties. So let's go ahead and select this one once again. And that's pretty much everything. You want to use black and white on the SafetyPro printers, which are monochrome printers. So regardless of the supplies that you have loaded, black and white labeling will on the screen will produce the best results. So that covers these four basic shapes. Let's go ahead and look at few other things. Let me show you one last thing before we go away from the shapes. The tablet mode that I was telling you about, several things change. You'll notice your selected object handles are larger. That's so that you can use your finger to grab those and move them around. You'll also notice here in the item properties on the right that the buttons have become larger and they're further spaced apart so that you can tap the correct button. Let's go back into normal mode. I'm going to select all these and just delete them so we can look at the text items. Next two items on this list are the text boxes, simple text and a regular text box. We're going to start with the second one, which is a regular text box. Click on the label to create it, and I'm going to stretch it out, make it a little bigger. The way this works is you can hit the edit button or you can double click on it, and that brings up a very familiar text box dialog. In here you can change your font, you can change your font size, you can change different properties of the text, including alignment. So for now, let's just go ahead and do some centered text, and let's type something in. Okay, so you can stretch out the text box and it will word wrap automatically. So if I make this smaller, it'll wrap in there. You can see that it's centered because I've chosen that. And that's pretty much, it's very straightforward and basic. It does exactly what you would expect it to do. You can change the sides explicitly as well as the position. You can also do other things that you could do with the shapes, like rotate and shear. So very useful, very straightforward. Let's go ahead and look at the simple text. Go ahead and click and set that down. Simple text, you just type in the word that you want right here. It can be a couple words long. Usually it's not going to be very long. It's not going to be a paragraph. It's not going to auto-wrap, things like that. Okay, so let's just put in the word hello for a test. Now you'll find if you resize this, that the text will just stay in the middle in this mode. Okay, and it will be the size that you have set here at the bottom, 36 point right now. The most used feature of this simple text is the stretchable text. If I select stretchable text, now when I change the box size, the text inside will change. A few things to note on that stretchable text. First of all, it works really well. However, when you get real small, you'll see that it starts to cut off. Now that's because it's doing a function using the size that you have selected. If you want smaller text to not get cut off, go ahead and just set that to 6. You'll notice that you won't lose any quality in the larger sizes, and it won't cut off as much down in the smaller sizes. You also notice, if you're a user of our previous software, FacilityWare, that the new text box is able to deform the text. So if you need to fit text in a certain space, it's a lot easier now with that, the ability to deform the text. The rest of these are similar options that you've already seen, except for this vertical, which lets you stack the letters one on top of the other. That looks a little weird when it's all stretched out, but vertical just lets you have stacking letters. So there you go, stretchable, vertical, and normal text boxes. All right, there's also, you'll see in these two items, if you look at the bottom, you'll see data field, no field attached. That's an advanced feature that we'll talk a little bit more about in a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and go down the row here. We got the 4 types of barcodes that this label software supports, which are QR codes, code 39, code 128, and UPC. Those are the most common in the industry and the ones that our users use the most. And those are the ones we brought over. Barcodes are considered a more advanced option, so there's a separate video for questions you may have about barcodes. Let me just show you how they work. Click and set them down, and then you enter your text over here. But again, if you have questions about barcodes, the different types of barcodes, go ahead and watch the video specifically on barcodes. The next item and last on the insert menu is the image icon. When you click the image icon, it's going to go ahead and open up your pictures folder, and the software comes pre-installed with these 3 folders: SafetyPro pre-made headers, pre-made labels, and pre-made symbols. The pre-made symbol library is a library of almost 1,500 pre-included safety symbols that you can use. Let's go ahead and insert one of those. If you have questions about Windows 10 and Windows 11's ability to preview SVG images, we have another video that covers that topic specifically. It's on SVGC. Go ahead and watch that video if you have questions about what you see when you go into this folder. So let's go in the Warning International folder and choose one of these and set it down on the label. It works the same way as everything else. Once you set it down, you can click on it once and look at the item properties and make changes there as needed. You can use the green dots to stretch it and you can click it and move it around on your label. One thing to point out here is if you've worked hard to create a label template with text everywhere else, and you want to change the image, you don't have to delete it and recreate it. You can just go into the item properties on the right and click the change button, and you can go back into your image library, and let's go ahead and change this one to this guy getting shocked. So without moving it around, without having to reposition the item, you can just change what the item is. Very useful if you're making a variety of different labels using one template. Okay, so that's the image item. The image item also lets you insert sign headers, which really are just also in your picture folder under the pre-made headers folder. These are sign headers. Now, this right here is showing you what the issue is with Windows. Windows sometimes shows these, sometimes does not. Again, watch the video on SVGC, which talks about that issue a little bit. But let's just go ahead and load up one of these. So the sign headers are what you might expect to see at the top of a standard type of label. They're pre-made for you, so you don't have to make each individual item in this sign header yourself. You can just quickly grab a sign header, grab an image, put in some text, and you have a label. Okay, so that is the insert image item. Let's go ahead and delete those. And let's talk about some of these other items. In order to use these other items, we're going to have some objects to work with. So let's go ahead and put in a couple text boxes. Stretch that out so it's visible. Now we're going to go ahead and copy this. Right here you have your copy paste options. So let's go ahead and copy that. And then let's go ahead and paste it. So we've made a second one right here. We're going to go ahead and edit that and call it box 2. Notice it has the same dimensions and everything else as the first one. So this is the copy, cut, paste, and delete items right here. Okay. So this right here is your undo. So that undid the text change I made. Actually, let's use the redo. The green button is the redo, so that this is undo and redo. Those two arrows. All right. And then let's see what other options we have. Oh, for rotation, again, I showed you down here under transformation where you can change the angle. You can also just click this and it will do the 90-degree rotations for you. So if you want a box on the side, text that's this direction, you can quickly up here switch it that way. The lock icons do what you would imagine they would do. If I lock this item, it's now red and can't be moved around. I can still select it and make changes, but I can't reposition it on the label. So if you have an item that you don't want to accidentally bump, you can lock and unlock using these two. Likewise, you can also select multiple objects and lock them all at once. This right here is for stacking. Let's go ahead and make some shapes so that makes sense. And we'll go ahead and make these solid. And we'll make this first one gray. Okay, and actually let's delete this one and use copy. Copy and paste it. Now we have a second one with all the same properties. Let's go ahead and just change it to a different color here. Normally, like I said, it's SafetyPro is a monochrome printer. You want to use solid black and white for the best printing results. These colors are there because we didn't want to limit our software for what you could use it for, but for printing on thermal transfer resin printers, you want to use solid colors. All right, these two colors help demonstrate what we're doing with these icons up here. You notice the gray is behind the black. If you click this, it'll bring it to the front, and this will bring it to the back. Very straightforward, but if you have multiple objects that are overlapping each other and one is getting in the way, you may want to bring one to the front or send one to the back. Select all does what you would expect. It selects all the objects on your label. You can deselect them by just clicking anywhere. These two icons are for the grid and the snap to grid. The grid are these dots that are visible on the label. You can turn that on or off if you want to see them. Snap to grid means your items will snap to those dots, which makes it much easier to align things more perfectly, as you see there. However, if you don't like that, you can turn that off instantly, and then these you can just position anywhere you want freehand. Those options are also in the View menu, where you can enable Snap to Grid and turn off the grid. These toolbox items right here are toolbar items are for creating a new label, opening, saving, save as, and for exporting as an image. To export as an image, you just choose that and then you type in a file name. It will save it as a JPEG. This next toolbar right here is for data, linking with Excel spreadsheets using the CSV format. That's considered an advanced topic, and you can watch our additional video on Excel spreadsheet linking. But to give you just an idea of what that means, this text box and anything with, let's see, actually the simple text is the one you can link. You'll find things that are able to be linked to a spreadsheet will have this data field option. Okay. Oops, this one right here. So again, that spreadsheet linking is an advanced option. So go ahead and watch that Excel spreadsheet linking video if you have questions about how you can populate items in your label from a spreadsheet. I'll go ahead and delete that. That's these 5 icons here. This is print preview, which does what it should. Brings up a preview of the label that you've just created, so you can see what it will print like. And then the print icon allows you to send your object to the printer. These we've already covered: copy, paste, delete, undo, and redo. These right here for zooming in. This is interface. If you want to zoom in on your label or you want to have it fill the screen, you can do it all very quickly and easily from right there. I usually just keep it about that big because that's what works for me. These are alignment tools. This next toolbar is all alignment tools. So if you have multiple text boxes, for example, you can select them all like this, and you can align them to each other using these ones with the red line. See, that I lined up the left edge, for example, or if they're next to each other this way and I want to line them up on the top edge, I would click this one. If I want to line them up on the bottom edge, oops, I could use that one. So that and this will center it with each other. So if they're like that and I want to center them with each other, or if I want to center them horizontally with each other, this all looks kind of similar when you're working with just 2 boxes. This one will also let you make them equidistant. If you had 3 items, let me make a 3rd item so it makes more sense. Let me copy that one and paste it. And then let's make that box 3. So if I have 3 items and those 2 are close and that one's far away, I can actually select all 3 and say I want them to be exactly 0.25 inches from each other, and I want them lined up on the top. So that lets you align things very quickly. So if you're making a label and you have multiple items, that makes it very useful. Let's do it again with these and line them up. These ones with the red light are lining the items up with each other. Now you might also want to line things up with the label itself. So let's say this gray box, I want it in the middle of the label. With it selected, I can choose these right here and put it in the middle, horizontally and vertically. Now it's directly in the middle. I could line this one up in the middle vertically and to the left. So these let you just move things around your label a little more easily if you don't want to manually adjust them. Again, very useful if you have multiple items that you need to align with one another, like this. Now we can make them equidistant this way. There we go. That becomes very useful when you have labels with a lot of data. And that covers all of the items in the toolbar. These menu items up here are everything you'd find in the toolbar, but in menu form. If that's easier for you, you'll find there's shortcuts for some of those that are listed there as well. And that's about it. Let me get you the change label setup. So this one right here we did not go over. But if you've created a label and you want to change it after the fact, if you decide 6 inches is too small and you want 7 inches or a custom size, you can make changes to your label after you've already started working on it. And that's that item right there. That's available in the File menu. That's also available on this icon right here. And that's the basics of what you need to know to understand how to use SafetyPro Label Designer. If you have more questions, you can always reach out and contact us. Our direct line is 877-762-9280. That's toll free. Tech support's always free. And if you need help with specific items such as barcodes or data sources, be sure to view our other videos on those advanced options.